Greetings, YouTube. We've all got these in today's world. My smartphone, it's a Samsung A71, in case anybody is interested. Nice purple case. I like the little thingy in the back. And it's become ubiquitous for the ability to take pictures and sounds and video. Everybody can do it anytime they want. It has had vast social changes. It has opened up social media in a way that never has been possible in the past, and it is holding politicians and the police to a level of accountability that they really don't like, which I support fully. Yeah, make them be accountable for everything they do. And one of the things it does is it allows us to record our lives. Yes, we're sharing it a lot, but we can also just take a picture of something and it's ours. Okay? I'm going to give you a quick example of something here. We're going to just pull up my gallery and there you go. So that right there, if the camera will pick up on it, maybe not. The camera can pick up that? I don't know if it can, but regardless, that's a picture of an axe I made recently. And if I had wanted to record that in the past, I would have had to use a film camera, which means I take the picture, and then I have to send the film out to someone to process it, and then it comes back. Okay, long, lengthy process, and you're never really sure if you got the picture right, unless you're very good. But with this, I took a picture, I looked at it right there. Yeah, that's good enough. I like it. That one went up on my Instagram. And I did the same thing for my still shot with my my other camera, which is this is the camera I tend to take my crafting videos and my bargain videos and my gear videos and stuff with it. Same thing. I can check right immediately. Yep, I like that picture. It's going in the video. Wonderful. That's awesome. I remember film cameras. I think I may still have a couple kicking around just as mementos, but I'm not positive on that. And I got thinking about my camera because I actually do use it at work occasionally. Now, we're not allowed to actually have these on us at while we're at our stations. It's not allowed. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I don't because I don't want to get hurt. But occasionally I see something I have to document it. For example, safety violations. I encounter far too many safety violations for my liking. And I document them and send them to the appropriate people. And at work I was thinking about that because I'd used it that day for that very purpose. And we don't have a lot of that in Magic. In high fantasy games where magic is ubiquitous, even in settings like Eberron, where magic has really been fused right into the society to a high degree, to the same degree as technology has been fused into ours, you just don't see recording a lot. Now, one of the examples I can think of is the Magitech setting from the Amazing Engines system. Now, Amazing Engines was a TSR attempt to create a generic rule set like GURPS that they could then use to support a bunch of different setting books. So just as GURPS has a core set of rules and then has like supers or high gear or even ones that are specific to horse clans, for example, one pops in my head. They had a horse clans book, which was the setting of the horse clans using the GURPS rules. I own that one. And that was TSR's attempt at that, the Amazing Engine system. I don't remember much about it. I'm going to be brutally honest. I remember it didn't excite me, but a number of the setting books were cool, and my favorite of them was Magitech. And in the Magitech system, the setting, rather, I should say, it was America, Earth, and our world, and at the time of the release, so like the 1990s or something, in the 90s era, except it was a high fantasy world. So Texas was a land of minotaurs. That you get that's that level. So it has to be complete fantasy because you can't have our history with those kind of creatures. It doesn't work that way. So it has to be completely high fantasy, and it's make believe to a degree of like Grimm's fairy tale make believe to accept that all of our cultures would still survive in that kind of a world. It's a degree of make believe that I actually find a little absurd, even for high fantasy. But one of the things they did have is a lot of emulations of technology with magic. There was, for example, a bullet spell. Boom! You shoot somebody. That's simple. No round, of course, which makes things a little more interesting and a lot harder to figure out who did the shooting. But that's the level of emulation. And one of the things they had were shells. Now, the shells in question were actual shells. I believe that they had probably were customizing them and growing them in some kind of facility because they were probably all very consistent. But what the shells were originally made to do was record sound. Because when the first sound recording magic was created, the association everybody had is if you have a shell and you hold it to your ear, you can hear the ocean. Of course, you're not hearing the ocean, but that's beside the point. Um, but because of that association between shells and sound, they used shells as the physical component of their recording, sound recording magic. So instead of wax tubes like we first originally had when it came to sound recording, or discs, which became the next thing they used, then it went on to 8 tracks, DVDs, CDs, and I still have CDs. I still collect them, and of course we rip them and put them onto a digital jukebox. But that's how technology works. But the shells stuck around. So even though it was essentially the 1990s in this fantasy setting, they still called them shells. They didn't call them albums. They called them shells because of that association. And I didn't plan this, by the way. It was just sitting on my desk because my wife gave it to me. She brings me trinkets back when she goes to the beach. She goes to the beach a lot. And I loved that idea that in a modern setting, they were still using and calling something a shell that was recording sound of the same fidelity, of it capable on a CD. Be interesting. Now I'm going to think about it. Recording magic would be the perfect analog, wouldn't it? It would be an actual true capture of the sounds that went on. It wouldn't be broken down into ones and zeros. So audiophiles would love shell recordings. Audiophiles would love magical recordings because they would be a true capture on the most fundamental level of the event that was being recorded. And that's a cool idea. But I have also seen in one supplement for AD&D, I think it was, where you could find sheets, and they were pieces of parchment. They were magic. And if you put your hand on the sheet and then you looked at something, and then you said the command word, the image you were looking at, depending on portrait or landscape, would be captured on the sheet. And I liked that idea. But being AD&D, they didn't really quantify how the magic that created those items worked. And I'm a big believer in a digital view of magic where it should be broken down and understandable and repeatable. So you should know exactly you need this ingredient, you need this kind of a component, it costs this much, you need to be this level, you need this feat, boom, and anybody that meets those criteria can make this thing. That's why I love a 3.5 and Pathfinder First Edition, because it has that level of magic. Magic is technology, and that's what I want. But I've never seen a spell that did the camera thing. Now, I could be wrong there, and somebody can correct me if there is in a high fantasy setting somewhere out there. It doesn't have to be AD&D. Again, I mentioned Amazing Engine. A high fantasy setting out there where there is and you take technically, you take a picture of something, and you could then record it onto something. Maybe it's recorded into your brain temporarily, then you can transfer it. You could have the spell allows you to hold an image in your head or something, or you have a set of spectacles that have that capacity, so it's a magic item. So you're looking at things and you're just recording it, which would be really quite good because that's a piece of stealth right there. That's right out of Mission Impossible, which I always love the spectacles they have in shows like that are, they've got communicate with people and they get live video feeds and stuff. Totally absurd, but they're awfully cool. The Marvel universe does that as well. But I've never seen a common spell that does that, nor, of course, the next step to a picture is video. You can do video with this. I don't do video with my camera very often, but I do it on occasion. And the fact that we can do that whenever we want to is important. And the fact that magic should emulate that. There should be the ability to capture it. And with magic, you could do it so it wouldn't be a flat image. Your camera picture wouldn't necessarily have to be a flat image either. It could be three-dimensional. It could be a 3D image, because why not? We are limited to 2 dimensions because of the way our technology works. And 3-dimensional images, pictures are possible, but they're more complex, and you have to have the right kind of equipment, and they have to be done under certain circumstances. But magic isn't like that. Magic could just capture a 3D image. So you could have a picture, and you could be looking at it, you could turn it like this, and you could get different angles of it. You could see a level of depth of field completely impossible in our pictures. Magic could allow a still photo to have that level of fidelity and depth, just as the recording I mentioned would be a true capture of the analog event. A picture could be a much closer emulation of what the person who took that magic picture is seeing, and the video version would be holograms. You would have holographic images recorded on something. I'm a big believer in crystals. I like crystals. So you'd have you have some kind of a special crystal, and the crystal would then record this, and then you could either have the crystal itself be the player, or as in the shell, you have to put that into a player to get it to play. The shell is more of an inert object in and of itself. The shell doesn't do anything. It's just the medium carrying the data, and the crystal is the medium carrying the data. So you put the crystal in the player, bingo, you now have a 3-dimensional hologram with sound and video of what happened at that time. You could do the same thing, of course, with live television entertainment, and they did that in the Magitech setting, having people play. Was the Aztec or the Mayans that had the ball game that had the stone ring on the wall, and you could like use your elbows and stuff, and you had to get through there. I can't remember the name of it, but that was the sport in North America. So like Michael Jordan was an expert at that game, which was cool. Again, I like the fusing they did there of our world and the magic world. So you could have true 3-dimensional images going on. And of course, I'm going to have to say this is also going to lend itself to the adult entertainment field in a way that has not ever been possible in our world. Even still images are going to be like, well, look at that. I can see the things that I couldn't see otherwise. And of course, these allow adult entertainment to be captured extremely easily. I mean, let's face it, once the digital cameras became available, even before they were fused with our phones, people were taking salacious images and posting them on social media or just saving them for their own use. It became so easy. But prior to that, if you wanted to get an image of adult content, even if it was just a simple artistic nude, you had to take the picture, and you either had to develop it yourself or you had to send it out and get it developed. And that was legal so long as there were guidelines. You couldn't, a lot of places wouldn't develop pornographic stuff, but just simple nudes, they would record those without question, so long as the person was obviously above the age of adulthood. And how do I know this? So I'm not going to get into details there. But that would be also possible in a high fantasy setting. So I want to know, because lots of you folks are familiar with systems that I'm not familiar with, even though I own and have read many systems over the years. Are there systems out there that have the kind of recording magic that I'm discussing? Sound, images, probably of a higher fidelity than our 2D images, as well as video. Do you know any settings that have those things? Because to me, they should really be part of any high fantasy setting. The fact that we don't see them for the most part in our novels and our video games and our even animated films and live action films, I don't see a lot of high fantasy magic that copies some of the technology that we have that really should exist. We have it because we want it. We want to be able to look at pictures of things that we've been or seen or haven't ever experienced. We want to listen to sounds of things that we've experienced, things that we'll never experience. I can go right now into my living room and bring out a 78 recording of me and my shadow made more than 100 years ago. And I can play that right now. It's one of my favorite songs. And I have a disc of the original cutting of it. That's amazing. And you should be able to do that in Magic. So if anyone out there knows of these things that I'm missing, that I'm unaware of, I want to know about it. Sorry, I blathered on long enough about technology and magic and how they should be used in the entertainment industry. But this really got into my head when I was at work taking safety pictures with my phone. Um, and I thought, why aren't we doing more of this in our hard fantasy settings? Because you could use it in court cases. You could use it to uncover mysteries. I mean, how much of X-Files would have been simple to solve if Mulder had been carrying around a decent goddamn camera? You know how many times I wish it's like, dude, why aren't you carrying a video camera? You see so many cool things, but no one believes you because you have no evidence. And yet at that time, there was an easy access to things that would let you record them. Of course, that would destroy the plots. That's why they didn't do it. Um, so, yeah, let's talk about magic and recording and what we know about it and what we don't and how we would implement it in our games.